And gentlemen, girls and boys, and assembled company, welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe. And really, I shouldn't have such a merry hat on this weekend, should I? I should have put on my black hat and have cobwebs. Well, I don't need to change the hair. That's fine. I think I'll just get a darker hat. We'll change. There we are. There we are. It's not black. The black one wasn't sitting there, but that's a sort of coachman's hat of someone who might be going through the dark woods of Transylvania, avoiding Mama Paduri and the ghoulies and the ghosties and the things coming down from the tree and tickling our face, which reminds me of a young girl. She was a poor girl. She'd lost both her parents, and she went to live with her cousin. Well, her cousin, she was grown up, and she lived by herself, and she wasn't very good with children. In fact, children annoyed her enormously. So, wouldn't do very well in your house, would they, Julio? So hello, Louis. Hello, Louis. We're just doing a little story about a girl.
Okay.
And
Okay.
she's just gone to live with her cousin because she's lost both her parents.
Oh, bless.
I know. And the cousin one wasn't very nice to her.
Oh, bless her.
Yeah. So what? It's like she would try to be quiet, and she would tiptoe up the stairs. But the cousin was one of those people that the slightest noise annoyed her. So she'd be walking up the stairs, and suddenly there was a squeak. Stop that noise! Or when this girl did the washing up, you know, when you do the washing up, and it doesn't matter how well you do it, there'll always be a little bit of cabbage attached to one of the plates that doesn't come off. And you think you've done a perfect job. I do love that witch's hat you've got. Orange hair, witch's hat, perfect. So, and she'd be told to do the whole washing up again. And whatever she tried to do, it was wrong. And one night she thought, I've had enough of this. She went out. She could next to the house where her cousin lived was a wood. She went into that wood. And you know what woods are like at night? You stand on the ground and the twig snaps and the owls hoot. And there's all sorts of noises. And although there might not be any ghosts and ghoulies or anything like that in the wood, you feel there is. But do you think she was afraid, Louis? Do you think she was afraid? No, not a bit of it. And she walked on and on and on, right through the night. And in the morning, she came out to a clearing, and in the clearing was a huge house, a mansion. And she knocked on the door. And she looked up, and there was a light in the window, and in the window was a skull. Do you think she was afraid? Not a bit of it. So, excuse me, I've been walking all night, and I'm hungry, and I'm a bit cold. Do you think you can let me in? Well, the skull said, "Yeah, I'll let you in, but I'm a skull, and it's I need to get back up these stairs. So if I let you in, will you take me back up the stairs?" And the girl, of course, we know she was very brave. He said, "Of course I will." And the skull came down the stairs, de-bong, 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 till it got to the bottom of the stairs. And as it came past the door, it just hit that latch and the door swung open. And the girl picked up that skull and carried it up the stairs and put it on the table. And the skull said, "Are you hungry?" The girl said, "Yeah, I am. But thank you for the shelter. But I could really do with some food." And the skull said, "Well, I find it very difficult to cook because I'm a skull. But could you pop into the kitchen and make us both a pancake? Whatever happened, don't worry about it. Just ignore it." So how do you make How do you make pancakes? What do you need, Louis, for making pancakes?
If you we need flour,
Flour, yeah.
eggs,
Eggs. I've got the eggs. I'm mixing them up.
Mom. Milk.
Milk. That'll do, won't it? And flour, eggs, and milk, and mix it all. Oh, have you got something else you want to put in?
Fruit, like raisins.
Oh, you want pancakes with fruit in? I think I can do that. I don't use fruit in Pardon?
I think into raisins.
Raisins, dried fruit, raisins, sultanas, that sort of thing. Well, mixed up. Well, as she was putting all that in, she got the eggs out, and as she's cracking she got the flour and put it in, and she's cracking the eggs into the basin, and suddenly she hears down the chimney, boink, and there was a bone. Bonk. There was another bone. Bonk. And suddenly there was all the bones of a foot, 2 feet, all the bones of her legs, and there was a pelvis, and oh my goodness, there was the whole skeleton except for the skull. Do you think she was afraid? Was she afraid? No, not a bit of it. And she ignored the whole lot, and then she put a bit of oil in the pan, and she put the mix. It was a big pan, and she put that mix in, and then did she toss the pancake, Louis? Did she try? Hold on, I'm going to see if I can do that. Hold on. Oh no, it's stuck on the ceiling. I better wait with the pan. It's turned over, and she put it back on the stove, and then she got it, and she didn't roll it up. I like to roll a pancake up when it comes out, but she just put it like she just had it sitting on the plate. It was a huge pancake because it was a huge pan, and she cut it. She took it through and put it on the table in front of the skull, and the skull said, "Cut it in half, and you have one half, and I'll have the other." Well, she cut it in half, and her half was beautiful, golden. And what did you put on a what do you like to put on your pancake, Louis? Do you put sugar on it?
No. Yes.
Anything else?
Mum? No.
No, just sugar. I like a little lemon juice. And so, but because she thought, well, my friend Louis, just likes it with sugar. I'll just have sugar. And so, and hers tastes good, but the skulls, it was all burnt, black bits all over it. but the skull ate it all up. It had little black bits on its teeth when it had finished. And they talked for quite a while, and then eventually the skull said, "Can you do something for me?" And the girl said, "Of course I can." And she said, will you take me into the bedroom and will you hold me? And whatever you do, don't let go until tomorrow morning. She took her through the bed. It was getting dark by now. It was the next day. Took her into the bedroom. She held on and held it really tight. And there was a knocking on the door, and in came the skeleton without a skull. And it grabbed the skull, and it pulled, and it pulled, and it pulled. And the little girl held, and she held, and she held, and it went on all night. The skeleton was pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. And the little girl was holding and holding and holding and holding and holding. Do you think she was afraid? No. And eventually, little daylight came in through the window, the first glints of the sun through the window. And the skeleton disappeared. And the girl drifted off to sleep. And the previous night, of course, the skull had said if she held on to her all night, she'd make her the luckiest little girl in the world. But when she woke up, the skull wasn't there. She thought, oh no, I failed, and I promised I'd hold on to the skull. And she was just starting to cry when into the room came a beautiful woman dressed in white. But she was sort of transparent. You could see through her. And she said, you didn't fail. You didn't fail. You held on to me all night. And I'll tell you my story. When I was a young girl, an old squire wanted to marry me, and I didn't want to marry him. And the squire said, well, if you won't marry me, you won't marry everyone else. And he got a dagger and he stuck it in my heart. And my dad was so angry, he cut off the squire's head. And the squire was buried without his head. And every night since then, he's come to get my skull to put on his skeleton. That's not fair, is it? That is not fair at all. You know, if you want a skull to put on your own skeleton, you should at least look for your own skull. But no, he wanted to steal the girl's skull, the woman's skull. But now you've held on to me all night. He can't do that anymore. And I told you I was going to make you the luckiest little girl in the world. And you can have this house. But because you need friends, because Louis, you need friends, don't you? Absolutely. I'm going to fill it with children. And because children need people to look after them and cook for them and wash their clothes and clean up after them, I better give you some servants. And maybe one day a handsome prince will ride by. And maybe you'll fall in love with him, and maybe he'll fall in love with you. But we'll see how that goes. And the ghost of that woman disappeared. And as she disappeared, the house was filled with light and laughter and the sound of children and servants. If you could have any food in the world, what would you have, Louis?
I would say chips.
Chips. There was plates. There was chips coming in on silver platters. There was huge piles of chips, and they didn't even have to cut up the potatoes to make them. They just arrived, piping hot. Do you have salt and vinegar on your chips, Louis? No. Do you have tomato sauce? Yeah. So, and there was bottles of tomato sauce, and when the children got tomato sauce on their faces, there was no one to complain, and there was no one going, "You got tomato sauce on your face." And they played happily, and they grew up together. And I tell you, when she was about 18. A handsome prince did ride by. But whether she fell in love with him and whether he fell in love with her, I don't know. Or he might just have stayed, thought, well, this is a nice place and they'll feed me well. And he might just have come in and sat around and just joined in the fun. Ah. Whoa. Louis, I forgot it was Halloween tomorrow, so I've just had to think of a ghost story, and that was the ghost story. You're going to help me make one up? Okay. I
will.
That's good. That's good, because I'm out. My imagination. I've looked in the hat and see if my imagination's there. It's not. So there's So you're going to have to be my imagination, Louis.
I will.
Yeah. Okay. You will. So I need to know. Where does this ghost live? Does it live in an old castle, or does it live in a broken down cottage, or where? Where do you think the ghost lives?
He's in a golden house.
A golden house.
A golden house, yes. A golden house.
Has it got many rooms? How many rooms has the golden house?
16.
15 how?
15.
15 house. 15 rooms, a golden house with 15 rooms. Now tell me, was this house on the top of a mountain, or was it in a forest, or on an ice patch? Where do you think this house was?
I think on a swamp.
On a rope?
Swamp.
A swamp. A swamp. Yeah. In the middle of a swamp was a golden house. Now, of course, because the house was solid gold, everyone wanted to get there. But what horrible things were in the swamp to stop people getting there?
Is the ogres?
There's some ogres with long hair.
His name's Shrek.
Shrek, an ogre called Shrek, but not a nice Shrek. An horrible Shrek, an horrible Shrek. We
are the donkey.
And the donkey. But was it a nice donkey, or what? These are in the swamp to stop people getting there. So what is this donkey? Has this donkey got long pointed teeth?
Well done. The donkey has no long beard. No, not beard.
Not got a long beard.
No. No, he's bald.
He's bald. He's a bald donkey. A bald donkey.
With some hair in the middle.
So he's got a Mohican. He's a bald donkey with a Mohican.
John. It's a blonde donkey with a bit of hair in the middle.
Oh, just a little tuft of hair in the middle.
straight down, straight.
Oh, straight
back,
down, like just
straight down.
a donkey. The only hair it's got goes down. Does it go all the way down its back?
No, no.
Okay.
And
Well,
he is also dubbed some ears, some eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and teeth.
and teeth, big teeth. Now,
A
if you
small one.
small teeth, but it'd be frightening if you were going across the swamp in a rowing boat. And suddenly out of the swamp came a Shrek and a donkey. Would they stop you?
No, but I got a plan.
You got a
They
plan.
got-
You got a plan. I'm glad you got a plan. We've got to
I
get to this
have.
golden house. We've got to get to the golden house. Yeah, we haven't even met the ghost yet. Let's get to the house. What's your
So,
plan?
it started in the swamp. Then he will move to the castle.
So,
It's a castle
oh, it's a castle. So the house.
as well.
As you're going across the swamp, the golden house changes shape and becomes a castle.
But John,
Yep.
this is not Henry Shrek.
No.
This is my friend Shrek. You left. I got it right about. Have a look at this.
Oh.
See?
That's the mute. Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got it. And that's Shrek the musical.
Yes, there is. It's live in Broadway.
In Broadway.
Yes. So he is Brian.
Okay.
This is Sister Foster.
Okay.
He is so small. It's Christopher Simba.
And are all those
Chris.
gonna help us get to the golden castle?
But it's not a golden house. It is a bad swamp.
It's a bad swamp.
So have a look at him again.
I've got it.
Here he is. Look at him.
Yeah, got it.
He's in the swamp. And before he starts singing, when he was I can tell you a story about Shrek.
Okay, you tell me a story about Shrek,
No.
and then we'll get to the golden house.
Well, it is not a golden house.
Oh, it's not a golden house.
Starting as swamp. It's not a golden house. It's just a bad or dusty swamp.
So we're in the swamp.
It started when he was small ogre.
So it started so once upon a time there was a small ogre.
A younger Shrek.
A younger
ogre named Shrek.
Fantastic.
And it says, living in a palm tree in the swamp.
So there's a young Shrek who lives in a tree on the swamp.
It's not a tree. It's not a tree. It's not a tree.
Okay, it's not a tree.
No. So he started was young.
Yeah.
Then his mum and dad remind him of his birthday. And sent him away.
He sent him away.
As well. He thought it's his birthday with his mum and dad.
They sent him away on his birthday.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And then they sing a song called Big Bad Beautiful World.
It's a wonderful world.
No. No, no. The songs.
Yeah, a
The
song.
songs. I am a believer in the end.
Yeah.
Like the Lord Farquaad, Donkey, Three Blind Mice, the Creatures, Pinocchio, Shrek, and Fiona.
Shrek and Fiona.
As well, with Donkey, followed by Pinocchio, followed by Fairy Creatures, Theatre Creatures, followed by Lord Farquaad, followed by Three Blind Mice.
Three blind mice. So three blind mice. Now my tongue's not getting around that. Three blind mice are right at the end of the procession, are they?
They are singing one of my favourite songs on this dance routine, and it's called I Am the Believer.
I'm a believer.
Yes, and dance to it as well.
And they're dancing. Yeah, I'm not going to dance.
I am.
You,
I can just show you.
you're going to show me. That's great.
Oh yes, I'm a little warmed up. So please don't sing. Boys, let's get dancing. Let's rap.
Perfect. Right, Louis. So we're dancing in this procession, singing the favourite song, and that's brilliant. And and what happens when they get to the other side of the swamp?
Well, John. When Shrek was young, still, Mom, is the story about him? Let's be beyond on, made up. It starts with Shrek was young and sent away. Then, Mom, he found a new house.
New house.
And then the baddie took it away from them. Mom, not yet. Yeah. Then he was a teenager.
Yeah.
He was a teenager in the swamp, and then started singing song, and then when Shrek done the song, he's got on backstage. No, wait a minute.
He's backstage.
I'm backstage. So the Theatre Creatures with Pinocchio are flipping over to Shrek. But his swamp's so messy. But and then it's moved to find a way to get swam back from the Theatre Creatures. And then once he walked to there, the soldiers from Mom, it's an act two. Come on, hurry up, because they're all waiting. I know that. So he's got a baddie called Lord Farquaad. He is so baddie. He's so evil. Mom, I will. And then Shrek sings a song with Donkey and the princess. Mom, where's this go? And then Shrek is so annoying to Donkey in Act 2. Haha, I am hurry up. And then he fell in love to a princess.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. A huge round of applause for Louis there.
Oh,
fantastic.
Oh no.
Thank you, Louis, for that story. I think I can't follow that with a story. I'm going to follow it with a poem. I think I'm going to follow that with a poem about smells, if I can find it. Ah, yes, it's called. It's a poem about disgusting things. I don't mind the fur in the bottom of the cut that got lost in my bedroom that was never washed up, and I don't mind the way that me old trainers stink, or the toothpaste that's dried on the side of the sink, and I don't mind the smell of garlic and onions and the way that me granddad picks at his bunions, and I don't mind being bitten by fleas from the cat, or finding I'm wet from somewhere I've sat, and I don't mind my sister scratching her belly or picking her nose while she watches the telly, and I don't mind the presents from the old dog next door, or the way that my mum always belches and snores when she sits in her chair and she falls fast asleep. And I don't mind the bundles of old tights she keeps to stuff into cushions one of these days. And I don't mind the way me young brother plays with worms and spiders he says are his pets. But I do mind something I've not mentioned yet. The thing that really does make me sick. And that is the way that chewing gum sticks to your hair, or your clothes, or the soles of your shoes, and you're covered in something that someone else chewed. So I'll get rid of mine with a great deal of care, right in the middle of my class teacher's chair. Right. Okay, I'm gonna. I think I'll do a story. I'm gonna do a story from Jamaica, and it's an Anansi story, and it's and there's lots of Anansi stories, and Anansi's always playing tricks on Tiger, but they stayed great friends, and Tiger every day made a big pot of Irish stew. And if there was one thing Anansi the spider loved, it was Irish stew. But you think Tiger would share it? No, he would not. So Anansi thinks, and he thinks, and he thinks, and he thinks, and eventually he says, I know, Tiger, why don't you go and eat your stew next to the water hole, which was very, very, very deep, and we can have a swim, and then you'll have worked up an appetite and you can eat your stew. So Tiger leapt into the water hole and he splashed around and said, Anansi, come in. And Nancy said, well, I'm very little. I really need to know how deep that is. Okay, said Tiger. He went underwater and he went down and down and down. And while Tiger was down there, Anansi got a leaf with whacked big leaf, and he put some of Tiger's stew on it. And he pulled it out into the forest. So when Tiger came up, there was a little less stew. And Nancy kept asking him to go down and down and down. He didn't trust that the water was shallow enough for him to swim around it. But eventually he realized he'd taken all of Tiger's stew, and Tiger would be very angry. So he said, just go down one more time, Tiger. And Nancy ran through the forest until he came to the town of the little monkeys. And he said, little monkeys, do you want to learn a new song? And monkeys love that sort of thing. So he said, this is the song. We ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, and Tiger doesn't know. And soon everyone was singing, all the monkeys were singing. We ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, and Tiger didn't know. And he left them singing, and he ran back to the forest, and he stood there, and there was Tiger. Who's eaten my stew? And they said someone must have come and eaten it while I was out. But I did hear some people singing a strange song, and I think I heard the word stew. Come with me. They walked through the forest, and they heard very quietly in the distance. Got nearer. We ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, and the tiger doesn't know. And they went nearer and nearer, and it got clearer and clearer, and suddenly Tiger heard the whole song. We ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, we ate tiger stew, and Tiger doesn't know. And Tiger leapt into the village of Little Monkey with a great roar. Can I have a roar? Can I have a roar? Julio, I want a roar from you. You can't just sit there on your thing. Well, you know, you I kind of need a roar from you. We'll go one more time with a great roar. Oh, you're bringing your whole family. We got to wait for Julio's whole family to come in here. We want a big roar. A big roar. 1, 2, 3. Even the witches were roaring. And Tiger leapt, and he did have a big axe just like that. And he said, I'm going to chop you all to pieces. But there was one little monkey ran off into the forest. And suddenly there was a stomping and a clomping and even more roaring, louder and louder and louder and louder, and into the village came the big monkeys, the big gorillas, and even tigers are afraid of gorillas. And Tiger ran off into the forest, never to be seen again. And you know where Anansi the spider went? Up into the roof. And even now, if you look round the corners of your ceiling in your house, you'll find spiders hiding. And it was Anansi that started that. Right, we've got time for we got time for one more story, I think. And I'm going to do a story from Suffolk, as it's Halloween. I'm not suggesting that Suffolk is full of ghosts and ghoulies. I lived there for 30 years. I did see a few ghosts and ghoulies. But this is from hundreds of years ago. And it's from a town called Beccles. And it was plagued by rats. There were rats in the kitchen, rats in the hall, rats in the garden, and rats up the wall, rats in the rigging and rats in the sails, rats in the straw and rats in the bale. And you'd open your drawer and your shirts would be eaten by rats. And you would open your lunchbox and your lunch had been eaten by rats. And on the square of Town Beccles were 3 men. There was a peddler, a man who walked from town to town selling things, called Samuel Partridge. And there was a candle maker and there was a watchmaker. And they were the sort of men that always had a plan. You had a plan, Louis. They had a plan. They always had a plan on how they were going to make money and how they were going to make their fortune. The plans never quite worked out. Now, Femke, you might have met men like this in your life that had big plans, but they mainly just talked about them. And they thought, well, we can make some money if we can get rid of those rats. Well, down by the river were three sisters, three witches. I think there were a couple of witches behind Yuliu there. And so, yeah, and that was Nancy Driver and her two sisters. And they had a really good time. They had nearly as good a time as the men on the square, you know, but they were always making merry, but the town hated them. These were three sisters who lived together on the river and or by the river, and everyone just told stories about them. There were rumours going all around the town, and occasionally they'd send the policeman down and the mayor and say to tell them off. And I tell you what, the people of the town, if they'd complained, had flies in their pies for weeks after. But Samuel Partridge and his two friends got on really well with the witches. He went down and said, Nancy, he said, I'd like a spell to get rid of the rats. How much will it cost? And Nancy said, I'll tell you what, you can have a spell. We like you. It'll cost you €1 in advance. Well, they went to the mayor, knocked on his door, and said, come in, said the mayor. We will, said Sam. He said, well, what can I do for you scruffy-looking men? Well, we can get rid of your rats, sir. And how much will it cost me? €15,000, €1 in advance. Do you think I'm going to give you three scruffy-looking men €15,000? You must be joking. Get out of my office right now. Please yourself, said Samuel. They made their way to the door. And the mayor thinks, well, if they get rid of the rats, it's going to be worth €15,000. And if they don't, it's only going to cost me €1 in advance. Okay, he said. €15,000. That was 2 minutes ago, said Samuel. The price has gone up. €30,000. That would make you the richest man in the district. Get out of my office right now and don't ever darken my doorstep again. Please yourself, said Samuel. And out they went. As they got to the door, the mayor said, well, if they get rid of the rats, it's probably worth €30,000. And if they don't, it's only going to cost me €1. But okay, €30,000. That was 2 minutes ago, said Samuel. The price has gone up. €45,000, €1. Now, you know, mayors and such like, you know, they're a bit slow. But eventually he caught on. He was about to open his mouth again when he realised that every time he opened his mouth, the price went up. Okay, he said, €45,000. €1 in advance. And he gave them the €1. They went down and they gave Nancy that €1. Nancy gave them the spell. And that night, out on the town square, there were the three pipers of Beccles, Samuel Partridge, the candlemaker and the watchmaker. And they had drums to bang, ba-dum, 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 and they had whistles to blow. And they made an enormous noise, and they were shouting, come out, ye rats, come out, ye mice, come out, ye please, come out, ye lice, and answer to the call. From neath the nests and from neath the doors and nests, ye pests, from out the floors, come out of doors. Come out, one and all. And a great procession of rats and mice and fleas and lice followed the three pipers down to the river. Now, I know in that German story like that, they drown the rats in the river. But they may call us silly and stuff, but we're not that silly. And if you've ever watched a barn full of rats migrate and they come to a river, you'll realise that rats swim really well. So they had built a big fire by the river, and they led into the fire the rats and the mice and the fleas and the lice. And the next morning, Beccles, there wasn't one rat to be seen. There wasn't one mouse. The cats didn't have fleas. No one was scratching their heads because they had lice in their hair. And there were 45,000 marks sitting on the mayor's desk, less one. But the three pipers of Beccles, they never turned up to collect them. But if you go down to the river at Halloween, that's tomorrow night, onto a bend in the river in Beccles, and you wait till midnight, you might see the shadow of the rats and the mice and the fleas and the lice and the three pipers of Beccles as they make their way to the river. Whoa. And that, Louis, thank you for your story, and have a great Halloween, everyone. So,
And you.
so, and I'll see you. Well, I don't know who's telling next Friday, but there will be someone telling children's stories. And on Sunday, there's worldwide story round, so people can come tell stories there. On Monday, there's going to be someone from the Hands Up project in Palestine talking about the project. And on Tuesday is our new weekly Young Storytellers. Yes, Louis.
We're just wondering which time is the Storyteller Cafe next week.
Next week, it'll be 6 o'clock. It's always the same time on a Friday. It's always 6 o'clock on Friday.
Sunday.
It's always 6 o'clock every day, or 6 o'clock in the UK. I mustn't confuse the world. But except for Tuesdays, which is going to be 5 o'clock, because we've got younger tellers on there, and if we have got young tellers in sort of places like Romania, where Julio is, that's 2 hours ahead. So we've moved it an hour ahead because of children's bedtime. So Tuesdays is 5 o'clock, but every other day it's 6 o'clock, Louis. Well, thank you for listening. Okay. Round of applause for Louis. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Julio, for driving the bus, and Ali for getting there in case Julio failed. Thank you. And Fem would be my audience that I could see. Thank you.